All right, let's get into these rankings a bit as we usually do on Mondays with the author, Matt Snyder. Former MLB executive Jim Bowden is also here. Let's start at the top. We know the saying, you got to be the best, you got to beat the best. Matt, with that in mind, how impressed were you with the Astros this weekend?
It was almost an unbelievable series by them. I mean, they almost made my job pretty difficult because if they went into Yankee Stadium and won 4 games, they still would have been 3.5 games worse than the Yankees overall. But I would have been like, well, they just won 4 at New York. Well, end up with a split. It was, like I said, the Astros pretty well thoroughly outplayed the Yankees for the entire series, just not the 2 innings where it mattered most in the 2 Yankees wins. They almost threw back-to-back no-hitters. It was a great performance by their starting pitchers. The bullpen just didn't get it done in 2 of the 4 games. Very, very good showing by the Astros, but not quite good enough. I guess you do say if you go on the road, you want to split. You know, when you're at home, you want to take 2 or 3. You want to take 3 or 4. When you go to the road, you try to split. They did split against one of the best teams of all time to this point. So that's a successful series for the Astros. But, man, they were right there on the cusp of a big statement.
Yeah, they play each other 3 more times in the next month. They have a single makeup game on Wednesday, then a doubleheader on the 21st of July. Right now, at least, it seems like these 2 teams are on a collision course for the ALCS, Jim.
Yeah, no doubt they are. They're the 2 best teams in the American League, as Matt has the rankings properly in the American League. I think there's some distance between those 2 teams and the Red Sox and Blue Jays. I think one of the things we learned in this series, though, the Astros were really well prepared on how to pitch to the Yankee hitters. And I think Dusty Baker deserves a lot of credit. They did a lot of homework. And then their pitchers were able to execute their pitches and the game plan. And when you watch Justin Verlander, Christian Javier, and Jose Urquidy, who started the 3 games, to watch how they pitched each guy and execute it and the way they mixed the pitches, it really was perfect. And they sent a message to the Yankees, which was, we know you're the best team in the sport, but give us a short series and we can beat you, and we can upset you come October. Message was sent, and I know the Yankees heard it this weekend.
All right, after a worrying 10-19 start, the Boston Red Sox have gone 32-12, the second best record in baseball behind the Yankees. They've won 7 straight, Matt. What's been the secret to the Red Sox success as of late?
Well, we knew they were going to hit, and the offense has been great. And let's give a shout to Rafael Devers here, because I know Aaron Judge is the MVP of the American League right now, but Devers is putting together an MVP-like campaign. Great work from him. J.D. Martinez, Xander Bogaerts on the offensive side. But I'm looking at the pitching, and you would have thought right now, Sale's still not off the injured list. Nathan Eovaldi is hurt. Garrett Whitlock's hurt. They had to move Tanner Houck into the closer role. I think that if you would have said coming into the season they would have had these problems with the rotation right now, that they would be in awful shape. Instead, Nick Pivetta looks great. Michael Wacha is having possibly a career year. Rich Hill's giving him quality innings. Josh Winkowski's going out and throwing the ball really well. They are getting absolutely everything they can out of their rotation right now. You can't say enough about the job their scouting department's doing with those guys and their preparation. Alex Cora, manager, great work by the organization as a whole to get this kind of work out of the rotation.
And tonight they open up a 3-game series at the Rogers Center in Toronto against the fellow AL wildcard contending Blue Jays. I know it's only the end of June, Jim. How big is this series for both teams, though?
Oh, there's no doubt. This is a really big series. These teams are really evenly matched at this point from what we're watching. It's going to be fun to watch. You have 2 of the best young stars in the game that are really mirroring each other in terms of performance over the last 15 days. I mean, how about this for a stat? Rafael Devers of the Red Sox and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays both have an exact .462 on base percentage over the last 15 days. Both of it 4 home runs. Devers has driven in 12. Guerrero 11. So they're going to be big stories. You're looking at the pitching matchup for this week. There is an advantage to the Blue Jays, though. Kevin Gausman will be on the mound tonight against Connor Seabald. It'll be Seabald's only 2nd start of the year. He comes in with that ERA of 6. Then in game 2, you've got Michael Wacha against Ross Stripling. Pretty much of a push, at least on paper. And then the finale, Nick Pivetta, who's been Boston's best pitcher, against Alek Manoah, the Blue Jays' best pitcher. But Manoah certainly is an advantage. He's one of the best pitchers in the game. So it's going to be a great matchup. These 2 teams are evenly matched. The Red Sox have lost 31. The Blue Jays have lost 32. I can't wait to cover this series.
Yeah, it's going to be a great series tonight. Gausman going for his 6th win of the season on the hill. All right. Things were going so well for the Phillies, guys. then they hit the skids just a little bit, lost 4 or 5 going into the weekend. Then they lost Bryce Harper on Saturday to the broken thumb. They won both weekend games against the Padres, but not having Harper, I mean, this is going to be tough, Matt.
Yeah, and the timing is, the timing's never good, but it's especially horrible right now because winning 3 of 4 in San Diego is an outstanding series. Puts themselves in a nice position to come home, kind of build some momentum toward maybe challenging for one of the wild card spots. Instead, they lose their best player, their heart and soul on offense. I came here Saturday night. I guess it was probably Sunday morning by the time that happened, at least Eastern time, which is where I am. And I said that I think they're done. They can't make a playoff run now. And I don't know if that's even bold or hyperbolic at all, because without Bryce Harper, the offense as a whole just doesn't work. They're too thin. I suppose you could say Castellanos is better than this. Maybe he could pick up some of the slack. Real Muto could hit a little bit better than he's been hitting. He could pick up some of the slack there. But what they can bring up from the minors, what they can acquire on the trade market right now, I just don't think there's any replacing Bryce Harper. So I think they're in a really, really bad spot, and it probably pretty much ruins the season. Again, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I don't think it's hyperbole. I think they're done as long as he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks.
And to Matt's point, the Philadelphia Phillies score one more run a game when Bryce Harper is in the lineup compared to when he's not in the lineup, and that's over Harper's career there. And this year, the Phillies have averaged just 2.2 runs per game when Bryce Harper is not there, so it's pretty significant loss. They're going to bring up Mickey Moniak. He's going to play a lot against right-handed pitching. Rhys Hoskins at a team meeting yesterday basically saying, hey, no individual is going to replace Bryce, but all of us have to do a little bit better. We have to find different ways now to score runs. This is a big setback. Now, the Phillies told me they're not sure if Bryce Harper is going to need surgery or not. He's going to see 2 different specialists, apparently, to try to make sure they decide to make the right decision. But it's very important while he's healing, and it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. But during this time period, the Phillies need to stay in the race, because if they don't stay in the race, then they're going to go ahead and do Tommy John surgery on Bryce Harper's elbow. However, what they're hoping is they can tread water. Now, remember this. If you have a good enough team, you're going to win with an injury like this anyway. Mookie Betts is down for the Dodgers. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis are down with San Diego. The Braves are playing without Ozzie Albies. If your team is good enough, you can win anyway. But I'm kind of in the same corner that Matt is. I didn't think this was a playoff team in March with Bryce Harper. I don't think it's a playoff team in June without Bryce Harper.
And the Phillies open a 3-game home set against Atlanta on Tuesday. All right, the Angels and White Sox continue to slide down the rankings. Angels had that wild brawl in their Sunday capper with the Mariners. The White Sox ended a 4-game losing skid in their finale with Baltimore. Now they face each other in L.A. What are you expecting to see here, Matt?
Who knows with these two teams? Every time it looks like the White Sox are starting to put things together, like they win 2 games against the Blue Jays, they've got Lucas Giolito on the bump for Wednesday, and then they get blown out. And then they go and they lose 3 of 4 to the Orioles. It's just, you don't know what to do with this team. They're so banged up, but even the guys who aren't hurt are underperforming for the most part. They did get Lance Lynn back recently. Tim Anderson's back, but it's to the point that some of the guys playing are nursing injuries, and Tony La Russa had to tell reporters, hey, we're telling them not to hustle, so don't go hard on them for not hustling. We're trying to keep guys on the field. That's when you know you're in a bad way. On the Angels' end, I mean, they've completely fallen apart since teasing us at the start of the year. And remember at one point, all the LA and New York teams were the top 4 teams in baseball. Now the Angels look terrible. Again, it's who knows. You know we're going to have star power on the Angels side with Trout and Ohtani, but they're not getting much else. Rendon's out for the year. You saw him in that fight wearing his cast yesterday, so at least we saw that he's still still there with the team. But for the most part, 2 very, very disappointing teams, especially after the start the Angels had. I think there's hope for the White Sox, especially with that division being so mediocre. They're only 5.5 games out, and the Twins and Guardians play each other in a 5-game series right now. So if they beat up on each other, there's an opening for the White Sox here. It's hard to trust them.
And let's continue with that disappointment theme. Jim, one of these teams is your most disappointing team. Tell us who that is.
Well, it's clearly the White Sox. I mean, I think back in March, I looked at Chicago, at least on paper, and I said, this is the best team in the Central Division. They should win the division by 10 games. Everything has completely collapsed for them, and I don't know why they're having so many leg injuries, but how do you go from being heavy favorites to under 500? I can show you why. Eloy Jimenez, surgery on his hamstring. trying to rehab, coming back, injured it again. Yoan Moncada had an oblique. Now he's got a strained hamstring. Yasmani Grandal now has back spasms. Before that, a strained hamstring. Lewis Robert has leg soreness. He's back now, but he had leg soreness last week. Liam Hendricks has a forearm strain. We don't know if it's the elbow or not. They're not being transparent. Adam Engel has a tight hamstring. Danny Mendrick has a torn ACL. He's out for the year. Garrett Crochet has Tommy John. He's out for the year. Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, Timmy Anderson, all of them have been on the injured list this year. We know why they've been a disappointment. The injured list is absolutely ridiculous and absurd. And although they're 5.5 games out, I think one thing we learned this year, the Minnesota Twins and Cleveland Guardians are better than we expected. They are complete teams. They play good defense. They're good base running teams. They make contact, and both of them have starting pitching. It's going to be tough for the White Sox in this division, especially if they can't get healthy.
Yeah, and as you said, as Matt said, I mean, just trying to keep guys on the field at this point, that's the focus. Forget about wins and losses. Let's just make sure we can field a team. Former MLB executive Jim Bowden, CBS Sports baseball writer Matt Snyder discussing this week's Power Rankings, which are up for your reading pleasure over on CBSSports.com. With that in mind, let's show you the final 10 teams in this week's edition of the rankings. Again, the full list with Matt's breakdown as to why these teams are where they are is over on CBSSports.com.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.